we're always kind of navigating leadership in some way, right? Whether it's at work with a team or even just like trying to stick to what we believe in when everything around us feels like it's changing so much.
It's like a constant process. Yeah, for sure.
Well, today we are diving into Walking the Narrow Path, Christian Leadership in a Time of Declining Faith by Sarai Hannah Ajai.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and what we really want to unpack is how this article shines a light on how tough it can be to lead with conviction when, like, everything around you culturally seems to be shifting. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like you're swimming upstream sometime.
Totally. And you might be surprised to find some things in here that really resonate with you, no matter what your background is.
I think that's what's so powerful about these kinds of discussions. You can find these universal threads that run through all of us.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, right from the jump, the author takes us back to Joshua's story in the Old Testament.
Oh, yeah, that's a powerful one.
Right. I mean, think about it. He's got to follow Moses, like literally step into the shoes of this monumental figure.
Talk about pressure.
Seriously. And on top of that, he's tasked with leading an entire nation into a new land after they've been wandering for generations.
It's like the ultimate leadership challenge in a way.
It really is, and it just kind of throws into stark relief those intense expectations and pressures that come with leadership, no matter what time period you're in.
I think we all feel that in some way, don't we? The pressure to live up to something or someone.
Absolutely. And, as I was reading the article, it brought up this concept called social comparison theory.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
And it just like clicked for me because it's that very human tendency we have to compare ourselves to others, especially like those who came before us or people we see doing amazing things.
It's that inner critic that whispers, am I good enough?
Exactly. And you can just imagine the internal pressure Joshua must have felt taking on this huge role after Moses.
Yeah, I mean, Moses was such a larger-than-life presence. It's like, how do you even begin to fill those shoes?
Right. And honestly, it's something we probably all struggle with, whether we're comparing ourselves to coworkers or even just trying to live up to our own past successes.
It's so easy to get caught in that trap of comparison, and the article really highlights how that can breed anxiety and self-doubt if we let it take over.
Yeah, it can be a real roadblock. And what's so striking about Joshua's story is how God directly addresses that fear and insecurity.
Right, he doesn't just leave Joshua hanging.
No, he gives him this repeated command, be strong and courageous. But the author makes this really interesting point.
What's that?
It wasn't just like a pep talk, like, hey, you got this. It was more like a divine assurance, almost like a promise of empowerment that was directly tied to God's presence.
Yeah, like, I'm with you every step of the way, so you don't have to do this alone.
Exactly. Is it like the message was, your strength in this role, Joshua, isn't going to come from just trying harder or being more impressive. It's going to flow from the fact that I am with you.
That's a powerful shift in perspective, isn't it? To realize that true strength comes from something outside of ourselves.
It really is. And, if we kind of zoom out from Joshua's story and look at the bigger picture, it's amazing how much his experience resonates with Christian leaders today.
Oh, I totally see that.
Right. Like whether they're leading a church or trying to live out their faith in their workplace or even shaping the values within their family, they're facing a lot of the same pressures and expectations that Joshua did.
It's like these timeless challenges that keep coming up in different forms.
For sure. And the article digs into both the internal and external struggles that come with that.
So on the one hand, you have that inner critic we talked about, that feeling of maybe not being good enough or the fear of not measuring up to some standard.
Exactly. And then on top of that, there are all these very real external pressures that feel even more intense these days because we're living in a culture that in many ways is moving further away from traditional Christian beliefs.
It's almost like the ground is shifting beneath our feet.
And that can lead to increased scrutiny and criticism, even outright opposition, which adds a whole other layer of difficulty to leading with conviction.
Yeah, it takes real courage to stand firm in your faith when it feels like the world is pushing back against you.
Absolutely. And one of the things the author points out is the influence of moral relativism and the growing secularization of society, which makes it even more complicated for Christian leaders.
Yeah, because when there's less of a shared understanding of objective truth and morality, it creates this really challenging environment for people who are trying to lead based on what they believe are unchanging biblical principles.
It's like the rules of the game are constantly changing, which makes it harder to know how to play.
Totally. And I think that's where that call to be strong and courageous takes on even deeper meaning for Christian leaders today.
I agree. It's not just about facing obstacles out in the world. It's about
Mhm.
cultivating that inner strength and resilience to stand firm in your beliefs, even when it feels like everything around you is telling you to compromise.
Right, because it's easy to get swept up in the current of popular opinion, but true leadership requires the courage to sometimes go against the flow.
Absolutely. And, the article brings us back to that key point that just like God promised to be with Joshua, he offers that same assurance to Christian leaders today.
It's like that reminder that we're not alone in this journey, that
Yeah.
there's a source of strength we can tap into that's greater than ourselves.
Exactly. And the author emphasizes that the source of our strength isn't supposed to be our own abilities or charisma or how well we can convince people.
It's about that deep reliance on God and his faithfulness, which is a really different way of looking at leadership.
Right. It's not about striving and achieving in our own power. It's about surrendering to a higher power and letting that be the foundation of our leadership.
That's a powerful concept, and it kind of leads into this idea of the narrow path, which the author pulls from Jesus' teachings.
Oh, yeah, I thought that was a brilliant analogy.
Me too. It's so vivid, and it really captures the tension that Christian leaders often feel.
Right. Like, on the one hand, there's this seemingly easier path of just kind of going along with the cultural flow and not rocking the boat too much.
It's the path of least resistance, Just blend in and don't make waves.
Yeah, but then there's that other path, the one Jesus called the narrow path, which requires a deeper commitment, a willingness to stand up for what you believe in, even when it's difficult.
It's choosing integrity over popularity, choosing truth even when it's unpopular.
And the article doesn't shy away from how challenging that can be.
Hmm.
It acknowledges the very real temptation to compromise, to maybe water down certain biblical truths, to make them more palatable to a wider audience.
Yeah, it's like that pressure to fit in to make your message more acceptable so you don't alienate people.
And I get that it's hard to feel like you're constantly pushing against the tide, but then the article brings in this really sobering warning from Jesus about gaining the whole world but losing your soul.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that puts things in perspective.
Right, it's like a stark reminder of what's truly at stake when we start compromising our values just to gain approval or avoid conflict.
And I think a lot of leaders might be wrestling with that tension right now, especially when it feels like so much of the culture is moving in a direction that feels opposed to their faith.
Yeah, that feeling of fighting an uphill battle, which is why I think the article's emphasis on obedience and integrity is so important.
Right. It's about going back to the foundation of our faith and remembering that true leadership isn't about winning popularity contests or achieving worldly success.
It's about being faithful to God's word
Hmm.
and leading with the consistency and integrity that flows from that.
It's like that verse in John 15:7 that says, "If you remain in me and my words remain in tree, you ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you."
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and I think it connects back to that promise of empowerment that was given to Joshua. It's like this reminder that when we align ourselves with God's will and trust in his promises, that's where true strength and effectiveness come from.
That's such a powerful message, and it really challenges us to rethink what success looks like, doesn't it?
It does. It's like we're so conditioned to measure success by external factors, like how much influence we have or how many people agree with us.
But the article makes this really crucial point about resisting that urge to compare ourselves to others or define success based on worldly standards.
And it uses Joshua as the perfect example because he wasn't called to just be a carbon copy of Moses, right?
Right, he had his own unique calling, and his success wasn't about replicating what Moses did.
Hmm.
It was about being faithful to what God had called him to do.
And I think there's such freedom in that realization for all of us, whether we're in formal leadership positions or not.
Absolutely, because it takes the pressure off of trying to achieve some arbitrary standard of success, and it frees us to focus on being faithful to our own unique purpose and calling.
Yeah. And to trust that God will equip us and empower us to do what he's called us to do, even if it looks different from what someone else is doing.
So as we start to wrap up this deep dive, what really stands out to me is this consistent message about courage and faithfulness.
It's like a thread that runs through the whole article.
And in a time when the world feels so uncertain, and when traditional faith is being challenged in so many ways, that message feels more important than ever.
Yeah, it's like a call to action for Christian leaders to step up and lead with conviction and courage, even when it's hard.
And the author reminds us that true strength doesn't come from ourselves. It comes from our unwavering trust in God.
That's the source of true courage, especially when we're facing the complexities of a world that's constantly changing.
It makes you think, doesn't it? Like whether or not you see yourself as a leader in the traditional sense, what does that idea of walking the narrow path look like in your own life?
That's a great question.
Right. How can we apply those principles of courage and faithfulness that we've been talking about to the challenges we're facing in our own world?
I think that's something we all need to be asking ourselves, and I hope this deep dive has given our listeners some food for thought and some encouragement to keep pressing forward, even when it's tough.
I hope so too, because at the end of the day, it's about staying true to what we believe in and trusting that God will guide us every step of the way.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been a great conversation.
It really has. I always appreciate these discussions, and I hope our listeners do too.
Until next time, everyone, thanks for listening.
Bye, everyone.